One night it happened to his cousin. She does not sleep well, so she is constantly turning over. That's why she sleeps on several pillows. On that terrible night, she felt her hand touch something. She thought it was the pillow that usually lies next to her. However, as it turned out, it was not a pillow at all. That very night, what his sister touched. The scary monster of the planet, with huge red eyes. The girl was very frightened and screamed. One day a guy named John was in class. When the teacher gave him an assignment his classmates were spoiling, and the boy decided to calm them down by making a remark. He loudly stated, "Don't be lazy, get busy studying, think about the future grades. Already if you are very bored, at least sit quietly and do not interfere with other studies." The boys were surprised at this remark. They thought he was a freak. This weirdo kid's name was John, and he loved learning and was very attentive to everything. But much to the boys' regret, he had no friends. Sometimes he gets lonely, but he doesn't need friends. He also doesn't want a relationship that will end as soon as he finishes school. And he has a clear goal of his own. On one normal school day, a guy came home early from school. The boy told his parents that he was very tired, so he came home early. Then he went to his room and locked the door behind him. Closing himself in his room, John lit a scented candle and scattered red rose petals, preparing the cushions on the floor. He was obviously up to something and was preparing for it. Eventually, the guy finished preparing his place. The guy prepared it all for a special ritual. John wanted to see ghosts, but very complicated ghosts. The guy has always behaved very strangely, but he was not alone. He had a main goal. The ghosts of girls can come. He can't lose his girlfriends. The reason he studies intensely is women. After 10 hours of the ritual, the candles went out, and the guy lay there with very scary eyes. They were very red. The next day his classmates noticed that the boy was late and was not in class. The guy was lying down and couldn't sleep after his nighttime rituals. His body had lost a lot of energy. At one point, John realizes that he sees a very beautiful and attractive girl in front of him. The guy can't believe his eyes. He was very surprised. The girl's beauty really struck a guy, although the girl was obviously fooling around. The girl was a very strange spirit who was wrapped tightly around the guy. John didn't understand what was wrong with the girl at all. He was very scared of her. A very scary monster of a girl approached the guy and asked what he was looking at for so long, to which he replied that he was amazed by her beauty. The guy couldn't take his eyes off that scary weird and girl. She was very close and scary, already right next to the guy's face, and yelled to look closer. John wakes up abruptly in his room. Apparently it was just a bad dream after the ritual. However, the guy was very scared, because if it was a dream, it was very realistic and scary for him. Washing in the shower in the morning, the guy thought that it might not have been a dream. The guy just wanted to see a beautiful girl, but he saw a scary monster. He smiled and decided that this was a good start to his rituals. And next time an incredible beauty might come to him. Great, 1 week sounds like a challenge, he thought. The next day morning, John wakes up and wipes his eyes like a normal day. Before the guy's eyes appeared a strange blurred bright silhouette. He cannot understand what it is, but eventually he saw a girl and realized that it is again the same girl from the dream. Over time, the guy begins to realize that this is just a drawing of this girl and on a jacket, and then he realizes that this jacket is worn by an ugly fat guy. John could not believe his eyes. He was disgusted and surprised at the same time. The fat man offered a hug to the boy, asking if he liked it. The next day the guy wakes up and sees the girl in front of him again. This morning surprised him too. A scary, pimply woman appeared right in front of the guy, smiling and screaming that she was the best girl in the world. The guy was terrified of this woman. The next morning the guy wakes up with huge and long worms crawling all over his face. The next day the guy looked really scary. He looked like a disgusting zombie. The next day John wakes up in his seat and hears strange voices whispering. He was very curious about who was coming to see him this time. But he did not find anyone near him. At first he thought that nothing had happened, but then he heard a shout that they wanted to destroy him. Before him appeared a terrible creature with a knife that wanted to destroy him very much. At the first blow, the boy managed to dodge it, then he tried to escape from the horror that had befallen him. The terrible creature kept screaming that it would destroy him and he would go to sleep forever. At one point, John manages to escape from his room and runs out screaming. When the boy's father heard the noise, he came out of his room to see why his son was screaming. The father asked his son why he was screaming and why he wasn't sleeping at all. It felt like he saw a ghost. The boy was frightened that his father had talked about ghosts. He really didn't want his father to know about them. But the father discovered his son's strange behavior and decided that he was hiding something from him in his room and decided to go in there. The boy stopped him by saying that he was just having a terrible nightmare and that he had nothing to hide. The father asked his son if he was okay, to which the boy replied that he was fine because he knew exactly what his room looked like now. The next day, the guy lay there thinking everything was going to be okay, or at least that's what he tried to tell himself. He understood that yesterday was really dangerous and he should probably stop there. The boy was well aware that it was too unfair to quit now, so he took the cross and lay down with it on his next recital. John decided to just try again, one last time. When he woke up the next morning, he saw the girl saying hello to him again, and he jumped up out of fright. John asked the girl what she wanted. The girl asked John, "Didn't you want to see me? You've been calling for me all week." The girl asked why he needed her, to which the guy, looking at the beauty of this girl, thought about the whole week going on. At one point, the guy comes to a realization, and he realizes that all these ghosts before that was the same girl. She laughed and said that it was very funny, but the guy replied that it was nothing like that and funny. The girl kept laughing and said that the guy was very nice in those moments and asked him if he missed her. The guy replied that he didn't, of course not, he didn't miss her. The guy smiled broadly, for he realized that the girl liked sadistic jokes, and it was funny. John also said that it was too much of a joke, and yesterday he was very scared because the girl cut his pillow with a knife. The girl was surprised. She told the guy that yesterday she did not come to him, and in general ghosts cannot cause physical harm to people. The boy wondered who had come yesterday. At one point, something abruptly swept the guy's leg. Along with the ghost girl, they saw a hand holding the guy's leg. The guy fell to the floor and this strong hand kept pulling on his leg. The ghost girl was frightened for him. He looked under the bed and saw a terrible monster that wanted to destroy him. It had 2 pairs of eyes and growled horribly at him. Panic gripped John and he began to strike sharply with his foot. One by one, the guy was sharply and hard off the monster's leg. At that moment, the scary monster let go of the guy's leg and lost its energy. The guy was very scared. The monster lay on the floor for a while, gained strength, and then began to move. The monster got to its feet and dropped the mask from its face. Then it began to complain that it was in pain and its nose hurt. At that moment, the parents heard a strange noise in the room and asked through the door if the boy was all right. The monster and the boy froze in a moment, staring at each other. His father came into the room abruptly. He saw John lying quietly in his bed. He asked him what had happened, to which the boy replied that he had just had another nightmare. The father said it was nothing and asked his son what exactly he was dreaming about. The boy replied that he could not remember what he had dreamed about and that he had not been feeling well lately and had been sleeping. The father asked the boy why the room was like that and why there were candles all around it. The ghost girl yelled at the guy that there was a killer in the house and the guy was covering for him, to which John replied that the girl just didn't know his father. He told her that his father was a very serious man and shouldn't be disturbed for no reason. The girl ghost said that the father is obviously not scarier than the killer who wants to destroy the guy. He was sure that the killer was a girl, and also very beautiful. He remembered that the killer girl had a very pleasant fragrance. John, remembering the scent of the killer girl, decided to smell his leg, which was dragged by his girlfriend, and it smelled very good to him. The ghost girl was shocked by the guy's actions. She told him to wake up and asked if he wanted to live at all, but the guy didn't listen to her because he was fascinated by the scent of his leg. Once again, the guy went to his bed and told the ghost girl that if he died, he would be able to see her forever. The girl was very angry at the guy. and said that she was very tired, he did not need to die and enter the underworld. The ghost girl sat flying in her thoughts and looked at the guy, then informed him that she seemed to know who the killer was. The guy was excited about this information and asked if the girl knew the killer. But the ghost was not sure. She said that she could not come for a few days and also told the guy not to do anything dangerous. The ghost girl began to leave the guy's world. He wanted to stop her by reaching out with his hand, but it was too late. The next morning, the guy was expecting a beautiful day of another spooky adventure, but he was very upset because he didn't find anything near him that morning. This really upset the guy, and he decided to activate the memories. The guy remembered all the moments with the ghost girl. Thoughts one after another went to his head. John decided to rest and go back to sleep. As he got ready for bed, he heard strange noises in the room. The guy was very surprised. The sounds were getting louder and closer to him. The sounds came from under the bed, and he thought she had been living there all along, and he never knew it. Slowly and hesitantly, the boy looked under his bed. He reached down under the bed and found his father laughing until he was in tears. Under the boy's bed was his father. He came out shouting surprise. The boy was surprised by this. John asked his father why he was under his bed, to which the father replied that his son had been having nightmares lately and was worried about him, so here he was. After that, his father asked with a sneer who Nancy was. The boy didn't know what to answer and whether to tell his father about the ghost girl. The father reiterated to his son that he didn't like guests who came very late. He also commented that the boy had been very strange lately and that puberty was most likely to blame. After his father's mockery, the boy couldn't stand it and started kicking him out of his room. After the boy closed the door, he turned around and saw the silhouette of the monster with its head down in front of him. When it raised its head and showed its face, fear and horror struck the boy. He was very scared. John fell to the floor from fright and began to scream, then calmed down and asked what was wrong with the girl. But the scary monster didn't look like a girl at all. Screaming out of his room, the boy calls his father for help. He tells him that there is a ghost in his room right now, and he needs to go there right away. On entering the threshold of the room, the boy points his finger at the ghost and shouts that there he is, but his father saw nothing. John points his finger directly at the frighteningly ugly monster, but his father sees nothing in the room. The son shouts that the ghost of the monster is coming, but the father takes the boy's words as a joke and tells him that such jokes are very difficult to understand. At that moment, the scary spirit attacks the boy with a punch. At the moment of the blow, a large magical protective aura dome formed over the boy. It protected him from the forces of the evil spirit. The monster wondered how an aura could be so strong in a human body. The boy realized that his father's aura is very strong and gives him protection from the ghost. He told his father that he really wanted to sleep with him tonight. He surprised his father. The father tells the boy that it's a little weird and even scary, but he starts joking about puberty again, but the boy clearly doesn't care for jokes. He sees this scary monster in his room looking at them. Since then, this ghost was always near the boy, stalking him and standing over his soul. To be protected, the boy never left his father's side. Fortunately for the boy, the ghost did not appear during the day, so he was able to study in peace. John was a little uncomfortable with this way of life, but he should have held out until Nancy arrived. One day, his father informs his son that he urgently needs to pack up and go on a business trip for work. It really upsets the guy and throws him into a panic. The boy asked his father when exactly he was leaving, to which he replied that right away, packed his bags and suitcases and left the house with the boy, telling him that they would see each other in a week. When his father had already left, the boy shouted for him to take him with him, and in a moment he had already heard sounds familiar to him. It was a scary monster who said that finally the two of them were together. Scared, the guy didn't know what to do and he decided nothing better than to just run. He ran wherever he could and was very scared. Then the guy tries to break the glass to get out, but realizes that the glass is very strong and he just can't break it completely with his hand. The guy was very scared. He did not know what to do. In his window appeared a huge scary silhouette of the monster. At one moment the monster performed magic and the floor under the guy just disappeared. It was just a black hole. Then John found himself in a strange magical dome, and it was clearly for a reason. At this point, Nancy's ghost appears, and she was very angry at the guy, and asked why he summoned the ghost monster. The girl looked intently into the monster's eyes and then used her secret superpower. Her hair gained magical and super powerful abilities, and she began to strangle the monster, screaming for it to go away. Nancy squeezed the monster very hard, and she managed to destroy half of it after all, and only the other half remained. The girl became extremely angry and used her super aura. The monster immediately felt it and abruptly began to fly at the guy. John was very scared and he covered his hands, but the monster flew past him and out the window. The monster flew out the window and told the boy not to be afraid because it had changed its mind to destroy him. It also told the boy that even if it did not destroy him, he would still fall asleep forever. This information really surprised John and Nancy. Within 20 minutes, the girl and the guy had already fixed the window and rewound the guy's arm to stop the bleeding. The ghost girl complained to the guy that she had asked him to be careful, but the guy explained to her that he hadn't done anything at all and was just like that. The boy could not imagine how he would live because he was very worried that now ghosts would visit him all the time. He thought his life was over because he hated them so much. He was very embarrassed by the fact that ghosts are scary men. The girl was alarmed, and Nancy told the boy that that was not the problem now and that he had been trembling with ghosts recently. John was very frightened. He explained to the girl that he could not stay alone with scary ghost men. He was very worried about what would happen and asked the girl to protect him, which surprised her. She looked at him carefully and thought how she could help him, and then said that I think she had an idea. The girl suggested the idea of letting her into the boy's body. That way she could be with him even during the day and she could feel the danger. The boy was frightened, but he liked Nancy's idea and asked what he should do, to which the girl replied that he didn't need anything at all and that he could summon her at any time. She moved her whole body closer to the guy and looked into his beautiful eyes for about 10 minutes, and then she slowly began to connect with John's body and enter him. She asked the guy to relax as much as possible, that she needed his calmness to act fully. The girl continued to watch the guy and then decided to ask him again if he was sure he was okay with the idea. The guy replied that he saw no reason to put it off. He realized that this meant that now he and she would become one. The girl thought he was crazy and touched him on the head and asked what was wrong with her. With a light touch of her hand, the girl entered the boy's body. The guy just closed his eyes and enjoyed the process. He thought about what Nancy had done to his body, so selfish and vulgar. At one point the girl was done, and the guy was very surprised at that, because it hadn't been more than 5 minutes. The guy started to question the girl about everything being so fast, but the girl informed him that she was very tired and wanted to sleep. Then she said that she would rest and entered the guy's body. John's feelings were very unprecedented. When the silence came, he could not imagine that Nancy was a ghost right inside him. The next day he went to school like any other normal day, sitting there thinking about where Nancy was. She had told him that she would help him, but nothing had changed. She wasn't there. He felt nothing at all, because the process that was going on between them lasted no more than 5 minutes. The teacher came in and the class started. The teacher told everyone to open their textbooks on a new topic. At that moment, John raised his hand and told the teacher that he wanted to turn in his report. But the teacher smiled and reminded him that he had already handed it in, and he did not have to do it again. The boy was very surprised because he didn't even know what day it was. When the guy was told that today is the 13th day, he was very surprised and did not believe it at first. Then he took out his phone and saw that this information is the truth. The boy's surprise was so strong that he even stood up from his desk. The teacher asked what was wrong with the boy and why he stood up, assuming that the boy just needed to go to the bathroom. I was in the bathroom, and he began to realize that not 5 minutes had passed, but a whole week had passed, and the girl was still not with him. He thought that she had been hiding all this time, and at one point he heard her voice in his subconscious. The girl got very angry and started showing up right between the legs of the guy who was sitting in the bathroom at that moment. She resented him, but he also told her that she was gone for a whole week, and she said it would be quick. The girl said that John wasn't grateful at all, that he would remember everything that had been together with him lately, and if it weren't for her, he would have been long gone. The guy's behavior really upset Nancy. At one point it came to the guy. All this time, the girl was next to him, and even when he was in the shower. The girl was about to leave. She was admiring the boy. She promised him not to peep at him, and the boy joked that she had to show him something in return. John also complained about being laughed at by his classmates. The boy began to say that when he speaks in class it causes laughter, but the girl interrupted him saying that she had to go because she had friends and needed to meet with them. The boy was jealous of the girl, but she told him to think about it because it is better to be around people. The boy began to say that when he speaks in class it causes laughter, but the girl interrupted him saying that she had to go because she had friends and needed to meet with them. John remembered his classmates making fun of him. They were very nasty and unpleasant at the time, and even more so not friendly. The girl said it sounded like affection, but the boy said it was more like bullying. At one point, someone abruptly approached the toilet stall. It was a guy in high school. He asked John why he was in the bathroom so long and how he was feeling. Then the high school kid snuck into the guy's stall through the bottom of the door, much to John's surprise. Guys came out of nowhere and started coming on to John, seducing him. Nancy laughed as she watched, and the guy got scared. He asked her what it was, and she answered that because she was in his body, he had no aura. Female ghosts like her have too strong an aura, which attracts men. They are always fascinated by the girl. Nancy reported that it was okay for a pretty girl to do that, and since she was in his body, the guy had to endure it. The girl also reported that she was running late and would be leaving, and the guy shouted at her to help him get rid of the men.